Most homeowners looking into installing a air cooling system in their home during this summer weather have been met with different options in the market. In addition to the different brands and models of air conditioners, there is heat pump that is being offered to them as well. A friend called and said, how can something that cools the house, has heat in its name? Yeah, heat pump. It doesn't sound intuitive. By hearing heat pump, it doesn't sound like something that should cool the house. In this video, I'll be shedding more light into the similarities and differences between heat pumps and AC. Hopefully this will help you as you decide what type of system to install for your home. Welcome to my channel. If this is the first time you are joining, I'm happy to have you here with me. For my returning subscribers, you are great. I love you all. Heat pumps and air conditioners are similar in many ways. Let's simplify it. Heat pump is an AC during summer, period. They use the same system. Heat pump and AC, they use the refrigerant cycle to take away heat, like expel it out of the house so that the temperature of the house becomes cooler. It's more complicated because there's a lot of systems, but that makes it simple for someone who doesn't care about the technicalities but just want to know what would keep the temperature of their house cool and comfortable. Heat pump is named heat pump because it pumps out heat. The same thing is what the air conditioner does. To effectively differentiate between air conditioners and heat pump, I think it's best to start with what their similarities are. The first similarity is that both have cooling capability. ACs are designed to cool the house. They take out the heat and they use the refrigerant cycle. Similarly, heat pump does the same in the summer months when it's on the cooling setting. It works by transferring all the heat out of the house and uses the same refrigerant cycle. The second similarity is that both can be energy efficient. There's a caveat though. Heat pumps are generally designed to be much more energy efficient. ACs with higher CL ratings can equally be as energy efficient. Those won't be the basic ACs though. So if you want a very energy efficient AC, you have to look at the CL rating. The higher the CL rating, the more energy efficient it is. So in that case, it's how much you are willing to spend. If you spend and select a higher CL rating and great model of AC, you can achieve the same energy efficiency as an heat pump would. Another similarity now is that they both use the HVAC ductwork around the house. When heat is pumped out of the house and cool air is in, this cool air has to be distributed all around and come out of the heat registers. So whether you have an AC installed or a heat pump, they both use a coil, although it's a different type of a coil, but they both use a coil and distribute this cool air all around the house. Some people find AC to be much more straightforward for them to use. They know that during the summer months, they turn on their AC when it's getting hot in the house. It cools them down. When we get to fall and winter, they turn off their AC. Some people even have AC covers, which is good and advisable, especially if it's a winter area. They cover the AC and they know that's goodbye AC till the next season, the next year. However, with heat pump, you might have to flick a switch to now turn it to the heating cycle. However, you don't even have to do that in some heat pump. As shared in my video, my 1 year experience with heat pump, I don't have to flick any switch. Everything is done with my programmable thermostat. So if you have a programmable thermostat, it's just a flick on the thermostat. So that makes it easier as well. So depending on the climate in your area, heat pumps work the best. If you are in an area where your winters are not very severe, heat pumps are the best. If you are in an area where it never gets cold, for example in the tropical rainforest where they don't have winters at all, like it's rain and dry season, in that case AC is enough. However, if you are in the temperate regions where you have the different seasons, some have more severe weather than another. I'll use the example, I live in Canada, in BC. BC's winter never really gets bad, like very, very cold as it is in Alberta. So heat pump is all they need. Like if they cool the house during the summer with their heat pump and they will heat it sufficiently with the same heat pump during winter instead of having a supplemental heat. So I'm going to explain now the differences of the two systems to help you decide which one is best for you. As homeowners considering these two systems, I'm going to be sharing 4 points that will guide you to narrow which system to install in your home. The first point is the versatility. Heat pumps are more versatile than ACs because they cool the house during the summer and heat the house during winter. However, this depends on where you live. If you live in an area where you don't have winters at all, then even though heat pump has that versatility, you don't need it. So it's an easier choice then. AC will work for you if you don't ever have to heat your house. If you have to heat your house and you are in an area where the temperature usually stays around -15 or less than that, like warmer than that, then heat pump is going to serve you well. That might be the only system you need for your house. For example, I live in Canada. For people in BC, an heat pump is sufficient to handle both their summers and their winters. Their winters don't get too cold like we do have in some parts of Canada. Where I stay in Alberta, it gets cold, but we also hover around the -15 mark for most of the winter. If you live in a climate where the versatility is an advantage, then it's in your interest. The second point that you need to consider as homeowners is the efficiency. Is this really important for you? For most homeowners, I would say yes, because efficient system means less ongoing electricity costs. Heat pumps are designed to be energy efficient. However, there are some air conditioners that can achieve that same level of energy efficiency. You just have to look into the details. Higher SEER rating air conditioners can be as efficient as an heat pump. They are usually a little more expensive than the basic air conditioners, but then it will save you money year in, year out. Especially if you have a long summer and your AC will run for a couple of months, the savings can quickly stack up. So if you are deciding to go with an air conditioner, make sure you get an energy efficient one. The third point is the environmental impact. Because of the way heat pump works, especially during the winter months, it doesn't have to combust an energy source the way gas, propane or all those kind of heating source or electric heater does. It works by transferring heat from outside into the house to warm it. That has a huge environmental savings because that doesn't produce greenhouse gases the way the consumption of gas boilers or furnaces is gonna do. If you need an heat pump, you need to consider that. And if your temperature, like your climate, favors that, that's a good point to look into. The final point is the cost consideration. So the cost consideration, I'll be sharing it in 2 different perspectives. The first is heat pumps usually are more expensive than air conditioners. So if you are going to be using heat pumps for longer, it's worth the extra investment. For example, in Alberta, your heat pump will still work in spring, either to heat or to cool, depending on the weather in that year. Some springs are warmer than the other, and in the fall, the heat pump still works. So if you use your heat pump for 9 months out of the year or more, then it's worth the extra investment. But if you are in an area where the winters are very severe, there are some places where their winters are below -25 consistently, they need alternative source of heating. So in that case, if they really have very short spring and very short fall, then there's no point in investing in heat pump. An AC will be sufficient for them in the summer months, and in the winter months they can go to their gas furnace or whatever system to keep themselves warm. I want you to go over this as homeowners. Consider your climate, consider your need, and use that to narrow down which one to go with. Both are great systems in the summer, they are equal, but what would tilt your decision will be what your weather is if you have colder temperatures at some times in the year. If you have any other question or you need additional clarification in deciding which to go for, either to go with the heat pump or the AC, please feel free to share in the comment section and we can discuss this. Thank you, and looking forward to seeing you in my next video.